I remember one day we'd finished his bath time and I was getting him ready into his pajamas, ready. And he asked me a very interesting question. He said, "Daddy, does everyone die?" It's one of those subjects that growing up, sitting around the dinner table, I was told by my elders, don't talk about death. To bring up the subject is to invite death into our home. And as I grew older, I began to realize death is not waiting for my invitation. Every single day that you have ever known has disappeared. Think about your most favorite memory, the most wonderful day that you've ever experienced. Where is it now? You're on a sinking ship and time is running out. So today, I want us to talk about something that most of us seem to want to avoid. There is something that applies to every single one of us, and most of us are unwilling to talk about it, and yet spiritual masters encourage us to learn about this idea, to know it, and to embrace it. Can anyone take a guess what we might be talking about today? It's one of those subjects that, growing up, sitting around the dinner table, I was told by my elders, don't talk about death. Almost as though to bring up the subject is to invite death into our home. And as I grew older, I began to realize death is not waiting for my invitation. Death is something that is always there. But for some reason, we're very uncomfortable with this subject. But spiritual masters don't work in the same way as we do. They have a different way of looking at life. They have a different way of looking at death. So today I want us to look at death. Let's learn about it. Let's know it. Because sooner or later, it's going to come for every single one of us. So we might as well know what we're dealing with. When we think about death, why is there so much resistance? Because it's based on fear. Isn't that true? That's the ultimate reason why we don't want to talk about death. Because we're afraid. What are we afraid of? We want to avoid the whole notion of death because it seems like in life our biggest desire is to continue to exist. Does that make sense? Our biggest desire is to continue. No matter what's going on in our life, whether we're having a good one or not, there is this deep-rooted sense that we want it to continue. Experiencing life no matter what it brings. And so the biggest fear is to no longer exist. Does that make sense? Our biggest fear, you could almost say that all fears ultimately culminate in the ultimate fear, the fear of no longer existing. In fact, nothing else seems worse than no longer being able to just continue to experience whatever this thing is called life. When my eldest son was very young, about 4 years old, I remember one day we'd finished his bath time and I was getting him ready into his pajamas, ready for the night. And he asked me a very interesting question. He said, "Daddy, does everyone die?" And that question threw me. I didn't know where that question came from. I said, "Yes, everyone will die." He said, "Will I die?" Remember, he's 4 years old. I said, "Yes." And immediately I saw his face change and he became sad. And he said, "Oh, I don't want to die." And it made me realize that from a very young age, there seems to be this natural feeling that death is something bad. Death is something to be feared. Death is something that intrinsically, instinctively, we must try to do whatever we can to avoid. But what do the spiritual masters say? The spiritual masters don't seem to have the same attitude towards death as we do. They teach us something very interesting. They say, to know God, you must first know death. To know God, you must first know death. That's what the masters are teaching us. In India, one of the most famous spiritual masters is known as Bhagat Ravidas Ji. And he has a beautiful teaching. He says, Jis marne te jag dare, mere man anand. He said that death that the whole world seems to be afraid of, petrified of, that death brings bliss to my mind. He says, Marne hi te paya puran param anand. He says, only through death will I know extreme, supreme bliss. Isn't that interesting? Something that we instinctively are afraid of. There are a handful of people that we call the wise elders, the masters, and their attitude towards this is completely in opposition to what the rest of society is telling us. So what's going on there? How do we get that level of familiarity with death? How do we do that? How do we become so comfortable with this subject that we may also experience death as supreme bliss? Notice the terminology. He says that death brings me supreme bliss. It's such an alien concept to us, isn't that right? It feels so weird. How can death bring you bliss? I can understand life. I can understand all the experiences and joys of life bringing me bliss, all the flavors of the world and all the things that we want to taste and all the experiences that are out there that we still haven't achieved. How can death top all of those? So today I want to go through a verse that's contained within the scripture called Guru Granth Sahib Ji. It's written by another spiritual master called Bhagat Ravidas Ji. Those of you who have the Gurbani apps on your phone, now would be a good time to bring that out and follow the Shabad with me. So the verse that we're going to be looking at today is on Ang 793. And the Shabad by Bhagat Ravidas Ji starts, Jo din aave, so din jahi. Jo din aave, so din jahi. Karna kuch, rehn thir nahi. He starts by saying something very interesting. He says, every day that shall come, each of those days will go. Jo din aave, so din jahi. All the days that come, those days will go. Karna kuch, rehn thir nahi. Each one marches on, none will stay and remain. So he starts by making us comfortable with what this thing called death is. And he starts by saying, death is happening in nature all the time. Every single day that you have ever known has disappeared. Think about your most favorite memory, the most wonderful day that you've ever experienced. Where is it now? Fragments of it exist in your memory. Some of it may be in photos and videos. But where is that day? It's gone. Some of us like to hold on to the memory of that day. Some of us would like to relive that day again. But he says every single day that has come has always gone, and every day in the future will always go. Every season. You know, in the UK, we like to talk about the weather quite a lot. If you have nothing else to say to someone from England, you start a conversation about the weather. And we're talking about every season. In the UK, we get very small, very short summers. And so you see the mindset change when summer is coming to an end and autumn is about to begin. And there seems to be this sinking of the heart. Oh no, we're going to have another 9 months of gloomy weather. Is that the same here? Yeah, you get some of the same here. So, every season that you've known has never stuck around. It comes back round. Every wave of the ocean that has come up has always had to go and dissolve itself back into the ocean. So Bhagat Ravidas Ji first starts introducing this idea that's saying what we're talking about is something completely natural. But then he brings it a little bit closer to home. He says, Sang chalata hai, hum bhi chalana. Everyone that you have known is about to go, and we are also about to go. That starts making it a little bit real now. It hits home. Dur gavan, sir upar marna. He says the journey is far and death is hovering over our heads. This is very interesting. He says, you assume death is far away. You assume that it's a long journey. It's far away. I've got lots to live for. I've got a long life yet. But he says death is hovering over your head at all times. What does that mean? You don't know. Nobody knows when it's about to strike. So just as the seasons change, just as the days come and go, you are also due to come and go. He's starting to just very gently introduce the subject to us. But as all good teachers, there is times when he has to give a little bit of a shake-up call to the students. He continues by saying, Kya tu soya, jag e ana. O foolish one, why are you still asleep? Why are you still ignorant about this subject? Time to wake up. Kya tu soya? Why are you still asleep? Why are you sleeping on this subject? It's time to wake up. Teh jivan jag sach kar jana. You have assumed that your life in this world is permanent. Yeah? Sometimes when you talk to the teacher and you ask a question, he doesn't even answer the question. He says, your question is based on a false premise. I can't even answer your question because your very question is wrong. And he's saying, your assumption of your own life is mistaken. You have assumed that you are here for a very long time. Rahao, time to pause and reflect, time to think. So what's he saying in this first verse? What are we learning? What he's saying is death is a problem that you don't seem to be ready for yet. How many of us can confidently say, I'm ready to die? Right? It's difficult. So he says, you don't seem to be ready for this. So let me make it clear. Every single thing that you can see, hear, and touch is going to go sooner or later. So how do we reconcile this? How do we deal with this fact that everyone seems to be on death row?
Have you found that spiritual teachings are great to learn, but not always easy to apply to your own life? Sometimes we all need a bit of support and guidance from people who know what we're going through and can help us find some answers. The Nanak Naam Facebook group helps you do just that. It's an online community where you can ask any questions about life and get answers from other members of the group. Search for Nanak Naam Community Support and join our free Facebook group today.
You and I are born with a death sentence. Yeah, you're on death row just as I am. Start to change the way we look at life. But some of you are going to be sitting there thinking, all of this sounds obvious. I know I'm going to die. Even as children, we know that life is coming to an end. So what's the point of this? Why do we need to talk about this? Surely we can just forget about it. I like to think that it's like we're in school and the teacher is saying to you, you need to prepare because at some point I'm going to give you a surprise test. And one day, sure enough, you turn up at the classroom and the teacher says, today we're going to do a surprise test. And every single student around you seems to be all flustered. Oh no, we didn't know it was coming. Yes, you did. The teacher told you again and again and again, make sure you prepare. At one point, I'm going to give you a surprise test. The Guru is doing the same thing. The wisdom is teaching us that you seem to be forgetting something that is obvious, but you're unprepared for it. And you can know how unprepared you are when the difficult times come. When death hits your homes, hits your loved ones, you know yourself how you deal with those situations, how you have dealt with it, and maybe some of you in the room are dealing with it right now. There seems to be this huge resistance towards something that is inevitable. So the first thing that the wisdom is teaching you is we need to change your resistance towards this. And first you start by doing that, by actually accepting that this is inevitable. Let's no longer pretend that this thing is going to go away. It's not going away. In fact, it might be sooner than you think. That's how the wisdom is presenting this to us. And this isn't how we function, is it? We don't work like this. What do we think the purpose of our life is? We think that the purpose of our life is to experience all the pleasures in the world so that we can know what joy is. Isn't that right? Carpe diem, seize the day. It's usually translated as stop going to work every day, time to book that bungee jump. Time to book that skydive. Seize the day. Do something amazing. That's how life has taught us to function. Every day is about gathering and experiencing all the pleasures of the world so that we can know what joy is. This is how we treat life. The masters are saying the purpose of life is to know joy regardless of the pleasures that you experience. We want to experience all the pleasures to know joy. The masters want you to know joy regardless of the pleasures that you experience. So what they're saying to you is joy is not dependent on what goes on the outside. That's why the subject of death comes to you again and again. Because you don't know how much time you have, but yet you have the thing that you're looking for, joy. You have that. You have it available to you. You just need to be shown how to open that door. That's what spirituality really is for each and every one of us. There's a beautiful analogy that the masters use, which is a crane standing very still at the edge of a riverbank. And it's constantly looking for the fish to come along, and at one moment it's going to pounce. And he says, you are like that crane, constantly looking for the next thing, but at the same time the crane doesn't realize that there's a hawk circling around waiting to pounce on the crane. You and I are like the crane, constantly looking at what's the next thing. I don't know if you're anything like me, but I spend ages planning for a holiday, for a vacation, and then the vacation comes and goes, and as soon as it's gone, I'm ready to book the next one. Are you the same? Yeah? Because that thing that we were spending months looking forward to, that's gone now. That excitement is gone and we have to go back to our mundane lives again. So let's start booking the next one. Let's keep that level of excitement going. I know I do that. And so it's like that crane always waiting for that next fish to come along, all the time oblivious that there's a big hawk circling above its head, looking at the crane, waiting to pounce on the crane. That's what death is like. It's on your head. It's over your head all the time. And so the masters are trying to point something out to us. You are looking for joy like the crane is looking for the fish, and maybe you're looking in the wrong place. Maybe you don't need to wait for the next thing. Maybe there's somewhere else that you need to be looking. I call it my if-only list. Does anyone have an if-only list? If only this thing happens in my life? Yeah? When you're young and in school, you're saying, if only I finish education, I don't want to study anymore. I remember when I finished university, and that last exam, and I put down that pen, and the examiner said the time was up. I couldn't tell you how excited and joyful that my mind was like, oh yes, no more education. And then you think, I'm going to go into the real world, and then you start looking for a job. And then maybe you get a job and you think, if only I find that life partner now. And then you find that life partner, and then you think, oh, if only we can have kids, or if only we move to a bigger house. There's always something else, isn't there? I know I have a big if-only list, and it feels like we're living our life like that all the time. If only something else can happen. Yeah? You buy the house, if only I get the bigger house. You get the promotion, if only I move up to the next level. When is your if-only list going to stop? It seems like it's never-ending. And the masters are saying this isn't the right way to look at life. So what is the right way? Let's carry on and see what the masters have to teach us. The next line says, Jin jio diya, so rijik ambrave, sab kat peter heart chalave. Something very interesting here. The one who gives you life will also provide you the nourishment that you need. This nourishment isn't the way that we're looking at nourishment in life. What do? We always look for the next thing. We always want to buy the next thing, go on the next vacation. So we're looking outside for this satisfaction, this pleasure, this joy. But it says that the divine has a different way of giving you nourishment. And it says every single one of you, the divine is waiting. The one that created you life is waiting to give you the pleasure that you're seeking, the nourishment that you're seeking. But he says, within your heart is his store. The shop that the divine is running is within your own heart. Whereas we want to go outside to the store to buy the next thing. So, straight away, the masters are pointing out a major flaw in how we live our life. We're always looking outside to buy the next thing, to get the next thing in our life. And he says that the one who created you sat within your own heart and is sitting there waiting to give you something. He's opened his shop, that divine master, that God, that life essence, has opened its store in your heart. In each and every heart, there's a store. So you no longer need to go out there to look for what you're really looking for. You need to go inside. So how do we do that? You know, the masters like to use poetic language, but it's very important that we break that poetic language down so we understand what does that really mean for us in our real life. So you're not going to find it outside, not in Maya, not in materialism. You're looking in the wrong place if you think that's where real happiness is going to come from. Sab kat peter heart chalave. That divine has a shop within you. There is something of value within you. How do you open the door to that store? How do you find it? Kar bandagi chhad main mera. So start meditating and worshipping that divine essence that lives within you. Let go of me and mine. Now the real clue. Now you're being handed the key to open that door. Let go of me and mine. Chhad main mera. Me, myself, my self-importance. I don't know if you're the same, but as soon as I wake up in the morning, my mind is all over the place. I need to do this, I need to do that, need to get the kids ready, need to make sure that I get them to school on time, need to get myself ready. Did I answer the emails that my manager sent me on Friday? I don't think I answered that one. Then I have to do this. And then before the end of the day, I need to go and I need to buy this and I need to make sure that this is done. So your mind starts straight away this big shopping list of things that need to be done. And that is what gets you stuck. You get lost in what I like to call me thinking. Chhad main mera. Let go of me thinking. Let go of your sense of importance. You know, we all think we're so important. Yeah? Everything is so important. Everything is urgent. The masters are saying this isn't the way to start your day. Hirday naam samar savera. So cultivate the divine awareness, naam. Within your own heart, cultivate a divine understanding, a divine awakening while you still have time. Because the subject is all about your imminent end. While you still have time, cultivate a divine experience to life. Not this mundane experience. How about you have a divine experience to life? So, what we're being shown is we are connecting to very insignificant things in life, and there's something higher that every single one of you has access to. And I'm sure you've heard this before, but most of us don't believe it. There's something divine within me, there's something sacred. I don't know what it is. I haven't seen it. I don't even know where to begin. That's why we need the masters. That's why we need the wisdom. Because they're the ones that have opened those doors within their own heart. They've gone in. They've figured it out. Have faith, have some trust that in all of human history, there are some human beings that have figured out the mystery of life. There's a handful of them that have figured out this conundrum about how to not constantly chase after happiness, but just how to be happy and joy all the time. Do we believe that there may have been some people that figured it out? In their own kindness, they wrote the instructions down for you. Out of the goodness of their own heart, they wrote the instructions down. That's what divine wisdom is. It's available to you. This is what we're looking at when we're looking at divine wisdom. So he says, meditate, chhad main mera. Let go of yourself a little bit while you still have time. So, do you remember what we said? To know God, you have to first know death. Well, now we're getting to elaborate on that idea a little bit more. To know God, first you have to be willing to let go of yourself. Everyone following me? Yeah? You have to be willing to let go of yourself. You might not know how to do that right now. That's okay. But at least the first step is we know what we need to do. You have to be willing to let go of yourself, your sense of self-importance, the obsession that you seem to have with your own self. Nobody's ever phrased it like that for you. You are addicted. You're all addicted. You're all high right now. You're addicted to yourself. Isn't that true? Do you ever wake up and think about somebody else first? You think about yourself first. Even if it's your kids or your house or your things or your job, it's still all about you. You're not worried about somebody else on the other side of the planet. You are all obsessed with yourselves, addicted to yourselves. Of course you don't know what God is, because your entire day you're obsessed with your own sense of self-importance. And the divine masters are telling us, chhad main mera, be willing to let go a little bit. It's okay. They've done it as well. It's like when a swimming instructor tells you to get into the pool for the first time, and you get in and you think, I know I'm not going to be able to swim. You have to have some trust in the instructors. They say, look, if I can do it, you can do it. But we like to think, no, it's probably not for me. Everyone else can do it, but it doesn't work for me. Anyone tried meditation and thought after 5 minutes, no, it doesn't work. Doesn't work for me, must work for somebody else. I hear it's really good. but for some reason it doesn't seem to work. There's something wrong with me. Okay, that's fine. It's okay to think that. But you keep coming back. Nobody goes to their very first swimming lesson and expects to be able to swim to the other side at the end of the first lesson, do you? You don't, right? But look at the expectations that you place on meditation. You try it for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, and you say, no, it doesn't work. I tried it. Not for me. It doesn't work like that. It takes time, takes effort, takes patience, takes the right instruction. Yeah? You have to have an instructor that knows how to do it as well. So, have some patience, have some trust in the masters, and slowly, slowly, you will be able to get there. So the first instruction is, let go of your attachments, let go of your addictions to life. I'll give you an example of how you go about doing this. If you've ever been to the seaside, if you've ever been to the beach, and you've observed a child building a sandcastle. Anyone ever seen that? Yeah, you might have your own children or nieces and nephews or lots of children that are running around. The children, they spend a lot of time and effort. They give it their full attention making that sandcastle. Yeah? They put all their time and effort into it. But at the end of the day, when the parent says it's time to go, a child does something very interesting. They take joy in stamping out the sandcastle that they spent a lot of time making. And it's a very strange phenomenon. They've spent all this time, and yet they're very happy to tear it all down. There's an excitement and a joy in tearing it down, just as there was in bringing it up and making it up. Children are teaching us something. That the amount of time and effort that you spend in building up your life, it is going to come to an end, so don't do it sadly. Take joy even in that. Take joy in building up your life and your self-importance and all the things that you have to do, but be also willing to let go of some of that. But we don't do that, do we? We like to build bridges with sandcastles. Nope, this is mine, and this is mine, and this is mine, and I don't want any of it to go anywhere. I just about got my life together. I've got the good job now, and I've got the good salary, and I've got a house, and I've got the relationships, and I've got everything in place. Don't move. Don't let anything break. That's how we treat life. The masters are saying there's a problem there. That's not the right way to look at life. So the masters are saying you're wasting your life building bridges with sandcastles. And your willingness to let go hasn't even started yet. And so, going back to this idea of death, we see death as a huge loss. Even our own death is a big problem for us. We're going to lose everything. Isn't that true? Death means we're going to lose everything. And the masters are saying, death is when you really gain everything. Again, they like to speak in puzzles and riddles sometimes. So we have to figure out what do they mean. So what we're being told is, you are wasting your life gathering seashells when really there is a diamond that you've missed. Imagine you're at the beach and the kids like to collect all the different shells. And in the end, they come with this big pile and say, Mom, Dad, look, I'm going to take these home. And you're thinking, oh, where are we going to keep these? Yeah? You already have rocks and sticks and stones that you've collected, and it becomes my problem that I have to store all of them and collect them. And the masters are looking at you and your life and saying the same thing. All of this stuff that you're collecting seashells when there's a diamond waiting for you to be collected, and you don't even know where to look. There's a beautiful teaching by the masters that say, Heere jaisa janam hai, kaudi badle jai. Life is like a diamond, and you are swapping it out for mere seashells. What are they looking at? Why do they have such a drastically different life? Do they not have homes that they build? Do they not have jobs? Do they not have children and wives and husbands? How is it that they're able to live life in such a dramatically different way to us? because they have a different way of looking at it. They're looking at the right things, we're looking at the wrong things. What they're saying is, you're on a sinking ship and time is running out.
If you enjoy learning spiritual teachings and you're looking to deepen your understanding, the most effective way is to learn with a group of friends. Right now, you can set up your very own Nanak Naam meetup group from the comfort of your own homes. Gather your friends, family members or colleagues and start your very own wisdom group by visiting livingwithwisdom.org. There, you'll find a range of Nanak Naam courses designed specifically for groups that you can watch together and discuss. A growing number of people have already started their very own wisdom groups, and it's having a huge positive impact on their lives. Find out how easy it is to start your own wisdom group by visiting livingwithwisdom.org.
So in the last verse, there's a little bit of a warning coming. Time is running out. Time now to start letting go. Do that now, because it's coming. So you might as well prepare now. So the warning comes in the final verse. Janam sirano panth na savara. It says, life has passed you by and you've yet to travel on the right path. Yeah? You think you've done all the right things with your life. I'm a good person. A lot of us seem to think, I love this line, I know what religion is. Religion teaches you how to be a good person. Have you ever heard that from anyone? Have you ever said that yourselves? Yeah? I don't need to read scripture and spiritual wisdom and all this text. It teaches us how to be good people. It teaches us how to be kind, how to share, not to be selfish, not to harm anyone. But that's not what the masters are talking about. They're talking about something far more fundamental. Every culture has some basic principles around how to be good people. The masters are saying, I don't just want you to be good, I want you to be God. How do you do that? It says, life is passing you by and yet you've not traveled on this path yet. Sanj pari dehdis andiyara. It is almost evening and darkness will soon fall in all directions. This is the warning that's coming now. This is how real it is. Kahe Ravidas nidan divane chetas nahi duniya fan khane. Ravidas ends by saying, time is up, you crazy fool. You don't remember that divine, and this world is a crumbling house. You haven't remembered. You're doing something wrong. Time is running out. So this is the warning. Remember the teacher saying to you, I am going to give you a test. Don't be surprised when the test comes. I can't tell you when there's going to be a surprise test, but it's coming. It could be today. It could be years from now, but it's coming. Be prepared. So what is this warning? It's saying you haven't remembered the divine. That life force that created you, you seem to have ignored it. You seem to have ignored something so fundamental that you are here. You've missed that miracle that says, what is this? How did I get here? It's not the birds and the bees talk. We know how we get here. What is this miracle called life? And why do I seem to just take it for granted? The masters are saying, there, look there. There's something there. Don't look outside life. Look at your own life. There's something there. You need to look, and you need to do that soon. But when you're looking at life, know that they don't want you to look at your body because it's crumbling. That's falling apart. I don't want you to look at your own physical body as somehow that's the secret. No, he says your body, that's not what you should be interested in. You shouldn't just be interested in your thoughts and your mind. Your opinions are changing all the time. That's not permanent. There's something even permanent behind that. And connect to it before time runs out. So how do we go about doing this? There's a practice that I've been using in my life, and the whole reason why I'm here is so that I can just share what's worked for me. And if it's worked for me, I think it'll work for you too. And it's been something that's had a profound impact on my life. And the practice is very simple. I wake up every morning and I say to myself, today could be the day that I die. Today could be the day that I die. And I'm okay with that. I used to do the school run every day when I used to drop my children to school. And as a parent, it's very nerve-wracking when you have two very innocent children and you have to send them off. You know everything about the child. You know how to look after them. You know every tiny look at what it really means. You know when they're upset, how to make them feel better. And then when you send them off to school, it's a very nerve-wracking thing sometimes. But one thing I used to do when I used to drop my children to school every day, I would drop them at the gates of the school knowing that could be the last time I see them. Now, most people will tell you that's an awful way to look at life. That's a very morbid thing to say, a very morbid way to deal with life. But I'm not really interested in what society has to tell me about how to look at life. I don't think everyone out there has figured out life. So I'm going to stick with my instructor, with my master. Because the truth of the matter is most people in life are drowning, and there's very few people that are actually floating and swimming. The masters are floating above the obstacles of life. Most people are drowning, so why do we need to listen to them? Isn't that true? So I used to say to them, and I still do every day that I say goodbye to my children, to my wife, that could be the last day. That could be the last time I see them. And if you do that every single day, you start to become very comfortable. I call it a training. You start to train your mind. This is coming. It's okay. It could be today. It may not be today. It's not a morbid and miserable way. In fact, every day that they come back from school, you really cherish them. Because you're saying, I wasn't sure if I was going to see you again. I'm so glad that you're here. Every day that you wake up, you realize that it's a miracle. Thank you. I get to live another day. It could be the last day, but it wasn't. I went to sleep and I woke up again. We all know and we hear stories where it seems that some people completely out of the blue go to sleep one night and they just don't wake up the next day. And you say, was there something wrong with them? They say no. They just didn't wake up. They were perfectly healthy, young, fit, looked after themselves, exercised, diet, everything was good. But what happened? We don't know. They just didn't wake up the next day. That's how real death is. And we all like to think that it's not going to happen to us. The masters are saying, why don't you change that way of thinking? And rather than thinking it's not going to happen to you, know that it is going to happen to you. It's a reality, it's a truth, am I right? It's a truth. It's not a lottery that may or may not happen. It's not a lightning strike that may or may not happen. This is definitely happening, folks. Yeah? So how do we prepare ourselves? Remember why the masters are talking about death so much. They're not telling you that when you die, something amazing is going to happen. Notice that nothing here that we've talked about today is about what happens after you die. They're not interested in that. They're interested in what happens before you die. Life is what's happening before you die, and yet everyone seems to have this question, what happens after I die? The masters are saying, let's figure out what's happening while you're alive. Let's perfect that first, rather than in the hope of having a perfect afterlife. So what they're saying to you is, you can change the way you look at life in such a way that you create a perfection. You create a completely different experience of your life. In fact, if you become so comfortable with the idea of letting go of yourself, you will find that behind the self there is the divine. There's something wonderful and amazing that's sitting in each and every one of our hearts. This is what the Masters are teaching us. So it's not about preparing for an afterlife. It's not about meet God when you die. It's about now. Remember the Master said a few times, time's running out, do it now. You're running out of time. There's a beautiful teaching that says, Sun man mitra pyarya, mil vela hai ehe. Oh my friend, oh my beloved, listen, now is the time. Those of you who are familiar with the Reras, there's a beautiful teaching that says, Pai prapat manuk de huriya, Gobind milan ki e teri bariya. You have been given a human form for one reason, to meet God. Now those of you who've listened to my lectures on God know that I'm not talking about some old man with a white beard in the clouds. The divine is available to you now. Avar kaaj tere kite na kaam. Nothing else is of as much value as this. So get together in a spiritual community, milasad sangat paj keval naam, and serve that divine. Connect with that divine. Connect with that divine name. See if you can hear the name of God that's beating in your heart, that's flowing through your veins. Most of us don't know. We don't know where to look. We tried that 5-minute meditation, didn't work. Yeah? So how do we go about doing this? What the Masters are saying is, in order to know the divine, you have to be willing to let go of yourself. When you let go of yourself, you will find that there is something divine behind you. Behind your thoughts, behind your concerns, behind your wish list of if only this happens and that happens in life, there's something else. It's here now. It's not that you have to go and find it or dig it out. It's there, but it's being blocked. There's a curtain in front of it. And that curtain, that obstacle is you. You are stopping yourself from experiencing the divine, experiencing God. You're the problem. But you're also the solution. If you can figure out how to do it, you can move past it. It's available now. So when we're talking about this concept of death, what we're really talking about is to let go of your ego. I want to be clear on what we mean by ego. Ego doesn't mean the bad parts of my personality. Ego means the myself, the me. The me. How main, me. That is the problem. Life is not about you and your story. This is not my life. This is not my story. This is life. There's life here. And that's something quite amazing, and it's worthy of your attention. Most of us are always looking outwards. The Masters are saying, it's here, right now. So, the Masters are teaching you something. Death of your ego will bring you freedom. Because ultimately, each and every single one of you is looking to be free. Free from problems, free from worries, free from this ultimate fear of death and dying. Don't we all want to be free from our fears and our worries and our concerns? Oh no, what's going to happen next? Don't we want to be free from that? The Masters are teaching you this is where freedom lies. Let go of yourself. Let go of your ego. So, there's going to be a very valid question that comes up in your mind, and especially parents. How do I function? How do I keep life going when I have to let go of myself? Who's going to get all this work done? Who's going to do all the jobs that need to be done? How do we get there?
A recent study has shown that over 75% of Sikhs say that their life feels stressful or overwhelming. These feelings can develop into depression, alcohol abuse, or even suicide. We believe that Guru Nanak's wisdom can help transform people's lives. Nanak Naam relies on your donation to help create more videos and podcasts like this to educate people all over the world on how to use Guru Nanak's teachings to improve their emotional, mental, and spiritual well-being. Set up a monthly donation today and help change someone's life. Visit nanaknaam.org/donate.
And what I like to say is, you actually know how to do this. Whenever you go on vacation, if you've ever rented a hotel room, if you've ever rented a car, you know how to enjoy that rental car, knowing that by the end of the week you have to hand the keys back. Am I right? You enjoy it. You don't believe that you're going to now live in that hotel room. You know that you're there to enjoy it for a short amount of time, but at the end of the week, you're going to hand it back. So you already know the experience of enjoying something, being very clear that it is not going to last. The masters are saying, this whole life of yours is a vacation, and one day you're going to have to hand the keys back. You're going to have to let go of this. So why are you living in this life assuming that you're going to stay here? Imagine the absurdity of you going into a hotel room and somehow believing that it's yours. When the hotel manager comes at the end of the week and says, it's time to check out, you say, what are you talking about? This is my house now. It sounds crazy, right? That's what you're doing with your body. That's what you're doing with your home. That's what you're doing with your family members. That's what you're doing with every single thing that you've created a relationship with. And the masters are saying, you do know this is temporary, right? You do know you have to hand this back. But most of us don't seem to know that. We are blinded by our own sense of self-importance. So you know how to do this. The master is saying, just as you did it on holiday, I want you to treat this life as something temporary. Because if you become clear that this is not your real home, then it will remind you to go and find your real home. I like to think of the spiritual journey as though somebody is locked out of their home. And then all of a sudden they forget where their home is and they walk around, they turn around and they just start wandering around, trying to find their home. When all they had to do was just turn around and realize that they're standing right in their porch. They're standing right outside their front door, but somehow they just got lost. They started walking further and further away. That's really what spirituality is. God is not something far away. You really don't have to go very far. All the greatest spiritual masters have told you that the kingdom of heaven is within your own home. The divine is within you. But because we don't know where to look, when we sit in our meditation, we say, doesn't feel like God in here. Feels like me. Feels like all of my problems, all of my concerns. In fact, that's why we don't want to sit and meditate. Because when we meditate, all the problems come up. It's easier just to put Netflix on. Yeah? So this is where practice comes in. This is where you have to know that at some point the theory stops and you have to practice doing it. You have to know what the divine experience is, and that's where meditation comes in.